Well, welcome to the Worrywoos program. It's a unique, evidence-based program to develop children's social and emotional literacy, because without that, they're not going to do very well in school. So this program, based around these beautiful little characters, a couple of them you see around me here, each picking up an emotion and each trying to help kids to actually understand, identify, and then manage those emotions so they're comfortable in their emotional well-being and in their social surroundings. So let's get into it. Now, the importance of social emotional literacy is shown in this particular statistic that showed in a 20-year longitudinal study that Jones and others, it's quite recent, found that the children who were down in below average in kindergarten, that when they left school 20 years later, those were the ones more inclined to be unemployed, to have a drug issue, to have a problem with the law, whatever. Those who were above average, who were learning how to cope social and emotionally, they were twice as likely to get a college degree. They were 54% more likely to earn a high school diploma, and 46% more likely to have a full-time job. I've got to tell you, I've been in this game a long time, as you might be able to tell. And I've looked at programs that cover some aspect of emotional intelligence or resilience or bully busting or something of that ilk. But I haven't yet seen a program that's as strong in evidence-based and covers the full gamut of emotional and social requirements that kids will need to be able to be successful at school. So this program is geared for the early stages of school, but it can spill over into the younger years as well. And it can be extended, as I'm finding more recently with some of the schools I'm working with, up into stage 2, 3 in the senior years of primary. But this program, it covers a full range of emotions. It's specifically designed for those early years. It's comprehensive in what it does, and it's got evidence-based behind it. So I think we're onto a very, very good program here that I'm hoping that you will enjoy as well. The first day, you see session 1 is just an introduction to the emotion and the character. Session 2, you see, well, we actually read a bit about that character and what his problems are. In session 3, we read what he did to solve it, and the kids try that out at home or in the playground. Session 4, we bring back ideas on what's working and not working, and in session 5, we look at a review and whether how much we've learned and which children are of concern to the parents or teachers. So that's the overview. Let's move on. So let's look at the first session. Remember, it's just an introduction. Who is this character? What's he doing in our classroom or centre? What does he look like? What do you think his face is telling you? Why has he got one horn up and one down, do you think? And we just study the character, we study the emotion and get them to know what frustration is. Some of the little ones mightn't even be able to say it, but they certainly know it. And then what do we do about what sort of frustrations do we have? And they might talk about the frustration when their little brother plays with a Lego, or something where they're not ready to go and they can't find their clothes to wear, and when they're going to school, all the little frustrations every kid feels. So they immediately feel, oh, I'm not the only one that has that frustration. I was blaming Mum because she didn't get all my clothes out. But they realise that we've all got similar problems and similar issues. So we talk about that issue. We can show them the book. But I think on the first day, generally, concentrate on what is the emotion, what does it mean, and let's look at the book, and so that you're ready for the next day to talk about what the problems were. Let's close out session 1, see just what you do in that session. The first thing is you talk about Twitch and his frustrations. What do we mean by frustration? Can they identify some of the common frustrations that they experience? Talk about the cranky bug. Now, that little cranky bug really gave Twitch a hard time. And I use the same worry bug or cranky bug depending on which character. You can use it just as an externalizing thing so the kids know what they're trying to beat. It's not there's something going mad in my mind. And the last point is you read the book, The Very Frustrated Monster, to them if you have the time, but that'll come tomorrow. Okay, now session 2 we get down to business, because in session 2 we're actually going back over, talking about our frustrations, but you actually rely on the book a bit more, and it's a beautiful little book, The Very Frustrated Monster, and you see the frustrations that the poor old Twitch has. There's no wonder he got angry, as we all do when we're sort of got too many things and not enough time to do them. We're all prone to it, and you can talk about frustration and angry feelings and when we get frustrated, and so you can talk about those and then share some things around, so that are common frustrations. So in closing session 2, let's go back home. We read The Very Frustrated Monster, and we focus on the first part of that book, which is the problems that Twitch had. And we also talk about then, the frustration, what it means, angry feelings, how do we feel them, how do we feel red in the face, so the kids can identify. And then, when we are frustrated, what things cause it, and how do we feel, and then I think it's worth mentioning too there that kids can identify that frustration is a trigger to anger, so that they are aware if we can handle frustration, then we've probably got anger under control. And you share things that frustrate them and what they find hard to handle, so they feel, oh, we're all in this together, I'm not the only one that has these feelings. Let's move to the session 3, which is the real guts of the program. Session 3, this is the real heart of this one, because today you read what Twitch did about his frustration. Now, I'm not saying that the way he solved it is necessarily all that clever. That's not the point of the story. That's why I've written a book about that. But what it does do is it shows them, you read the solution, and then you talk to them about their solution, what works for them. And I can't tell you how powerful this session 3 is, because when they start sharing what they do with their frustration, as some of you may remember Kohlberg's moral development theory, but what Kohlberg was saying in that is that kids will gravitate to a better solution than they have thought of themselves. It's quite fascinating why they do that. And the strength of this program is that it's a social interactional learning. It's not the teacher having to teach didactically what the kids should do about it. They're telling each other, and they learn more from each other, from the tom-toms, the bush, the tribe, than they learn from the teacher. So to recap this particular slide, you recall the story you've done, You focus on how Twitch learned to handle his frustration and anger, and you collect ideas from the group on what they've done to manage their angry feelings, and share some good anger management ideas. Oh gee, that was a good one, Lucy. Oh, that was a splendid idea you had there. And then you say, well, why can't we, when you go out in the playground, if you get frustrated, or when you go home, how about you try out some of these? And so they're armed now with some material to try and beat the cranky bug or beat their frustrations. Before we move to slide 4, you can treat this book just like a normal bit of comprehension, moving up Bloom's taxonomy of learning from just straight recall. You tell them how you think Twitch was feeling, what other things upset Twitch, who caused these problems, why did Twitch yell at his friends, do you think yelling at his friends was fair, do you feel sorry for Twitch, bringing out those emotions again, have you ever felt like Twitch did, and what lessons did Twitch learn from the squirrel? And what else could Twitch have done to beat his frustrations? So you get their ideas on that. And what do you think Twitch should do next time he feels confused or frustrated? Those of you who are familiar with Choose Your Own Adventure, this is where the kids can say, well, if he'd done that and bopped the kid, then of course that would have been he's suspended or whatever, or he gets into trouble. So what way could Twitch have done it another time? So getting kids to look at what are the consequences of this plan of action or that one. Right, now in session 4 I find this the most developmentally useful, because now the kids have tried out at home or in the playground some techniques, and so this is a recall of the story, his problems, his solutions, but more importantly, what are their solutions? How did they solve their problems at home or in the playground? And that is a real buzzy session. It should be quite buzzy as the kids contribute. If they're old enough to read, you can even put some of their solutions up on the board or whatever, so that they're familiar and it's reinforcing that learning thing. So to recap on session 4, you ask for feedback on their anger management. You get parental feedback if you like in terms of how they're going with it, so the parents feel they're being consulted. You list the tactics somewhere that worked for them, so you're reinforcing good tactics, and you're talking about what tactics they're keen to try next time. Okay, now session 5 is really a time for reviewing and planning. So it's one where you might collect ideas, go back over ideas that work. You can get feedback from the parents on what's working, and you can get feedback from the parents on if their child has got a particular problem with this particular emotion, so that can be then useful for follow-up work in small groups, either with the learning support teacher or with the psychologist or with external help, but they can get help. Some schools are even going with the idea that they can get little groups of parents in together who've got kids with problems to give parents ideas on how to help the kids who have a lot of problems, in this case handling their anger, so that the parents are learning skills as well in terms of the management of their children. So that's the 5 sessions, and it's a very tidy package, and it's been very effective as our research showed. But how you handle it is pretty much up to you. The reason I'm so excited about it is that it's not only an interesting program, but it has been very successful. Now we've got the stats now on over 1,000 kids that are telling us that this is a program that's got huge implications and huge benefit for children in resilience, empathy, all sorts of things. But I've looked at it and thought, well, why do the teachers like it so much? Why? They're as enthusiastic as the children. And I think that there are certain specific aspects to this program that make it unique and make it so attractive. Let's look at some of those. So that success is what the educators are telling us, but I think there's more to it than that. I think, I don't know of any program that's as flexible or adaptable or where it can be used by the learning support staff. You don't have to be a remedial emotional teacher to do this. You don't even have to have all your act together, socially or emotionally, because the creatures do it for you. The fact is that we can use this program with learning support staff, with aides, with whoever, to try and deliver the program as meets the needs of the classroom that the children are in. And you can adapt it, slow it down, speed it up. You can go from one character to another or skip characters. It doesn't matter. The program is entirely adaptable and flexible to meet the needs of your class. I would say that of all the programs I've looked at, this has been the most effective over my many years as an authority and as a speaker and as a researcher and a lecturer in these various areas of children's development. I've never been more convinced of the benefit that children get from a program than this one. So I hope they can become part of, you can take them on board at your school or centre very soon. They'll love it, and I know the kids will, and so will the teachers. Okay, all the best, and hope that we're in touch at some stage.